Swinson.
Thank you, Mr. Alder. Let me start by congratulating the Honourable Member for Cotswold for securing this debate on what is clearly a very important issue. I'd like to touch on 3 points in particular: local consultation, permitted development rights, and the taking into account of health implications in the planning process. Now, it's not just from my mailbag, my email inbox, and knocking on doors that I know this is an issue in my constituency. Using the new pledgebank.com website, I recently set up an online pledge to organise a public meeting in East Bartonshire about mobile phone mast applications if at least 20 people showed an interest in attending. The speed at which the required 20 people signed up to this pledge is an indication of the level of interest in this issue, and at a time when apparently there is little appetite for old-fashioned political engagement through things like public meetings. I'll be organising this meeting for later in the summer, and I hope that representatives from mobile phone operators will attend. Part of the reason why I feel this meeting will be useful is the current lack of consultation. One mobile operator applying to site a mast in Bearsden recently agreed to meet with local residents to consult, but on the condition that there would be no more than 10 residents attending the meeting. That's not my idea of adequate consultation. Of course, we all recognise the need for mobile phone masts. Most of us and most of our constituents use mobile phones and enjoy the benefits of convenient communication. But the key is to make sure that these masts are sited in a sensitive way, and achieving that has to start with meaningful consultation in local areas. Now, as I'm sure the honourable members here will be aware, Scotland is often in a pioneering position leading the way, and so it is with the planning process for mobile phone applications. The current situation south of the border, where phone masts of a certain height can be erected without reference to local communities and the planning authorities, is a recipe for disaster. No wonder people feel powerless and without a voice in these circumstances. And I would urge the Minister to look at the Scottish example, where planning permission is required for mobile phone masts of all heights, to see if lessons can be learned. However, I would also warn that ensuring the masts go through the planning process on its own is not enough. My constituents still feel frustrated that there is not adequate scope for their views to be heard, and the local authorities still do not have adequate decision-making powers on these applications. One example, as touched on earlier by the member for Knowsley North and Sefton East, is that the impact on health cannot be considered as grounds for refusal. Yet many of the concerns people have regarding phone masts relate directly to the impact on the health of them and most often their children. The 2004 Stewart report recognises that whatever the health implications may be, children are more at risk. The government advises that children under 8 should not use mobile phones, and parents are understandably concerned at the mixed messages. Often the daily radiation a mast produces is compared to the number of minutes spent talking on a mobile phone. Yet while parents are told not to allow their children to spend any minutes talking on a mobile phone, they're expected not to be concerned about the health implications of nearby masts. Further research is clearly required. For example, to ascertain the effects of clusters of phone masts in a local area. And this will only become more important as 3G technology requires more masts, meaning that many people will live close to several. Land contours should also be taken into account when measuring the radiation levels. It's not much good stating the radiation at ground level in situations where the top of the mast beams into upstairs bedrooms where children sleep. Perhaps most importantly, the precautionary principle should be applied in these cases. East Bartonshire Council, like many local authorities, recently had a policy of not siting masts nearby to schools. However, this policy was overturned on appeal. Yet the government's own documents state that the precautionary principle should be used. I refer to the Sustainable Development Strategy document entitled Together We Can Secure the Future, which was written in March of this year and I believe launched today. It says that policies should respect 5 principles, one of which is using sound science responsibly. This is defined as ensuring policy is developed and implemented on the basis of strong scientific evidence, whilst taking into account scientific uncertainty through the precautionary principle. I would welcome the Minister's comments on how he sees this fitting into the planning process for mobile phone applications. And in considering future action on this issue, I would urge him to be bold and not bind the hands of those making the planning decisions. Removing permitted development rights would be a good start, but it is not on its own enough. Local planning authorities must have the tools to examine all of the issues surrounding mobile phone masts.